So, how do I really feel about Juneteenth? I get asked that question, and I got the same answer. Unless I see the reparations, 40 acres and a mule, and an apology, it's just another empty situation. Yes, it's a federal holiday Joe Biden signed. Oh, and I hate to say this, you need like about 100,000 more George Floyds to make you understand that your ugly history, and that for over 400 years of free labor and everything that goes on, and that I'm supposed to believe that 60 years is going to make up. Well, there's only 60 years where you've been able to be part of the workforce, and that there was documentation. But now you got somebody like Trump in there trying to take that all away. Got someone with DEIs and trying to take everything away that's progressive. So, what does it all mean exactly? And how do you commemorate something when you're in a place that has never formally apologized, still has old slave master statues, still has old declarations, and still has Jim Crow isms with the police and how people treat you and how you're subjective to walking and talking and thinking while black, and in a school curriculum and circumstances that is racist, antiquated, one-sided, and only gives you 1 month? How are you free? Because you don't have the totality and the freedom to tell the whole story. You get a select of what they want you to know, a select of what they want you to be shown, and everything that's done to eliminate. When you think about the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, 1921, and then you see the women that are remaining, the people that are remaining, they can't get reparations for that, and all the genocide that's been pushed forth directly. You know, when Whoopi Goldberg talked about black people having it as tough as Iraq and the states going through it, she wasn't lying. People don't never like to understand the African American experience in America, because you get a couple of things. You get it sprinkled by entertainers or athletes or somebody, and that's the way they try to project it, that they have somehow made it. They tell you in Forbes magazine that such and such is worth $1 billion. They tell you that such and such has made it out this. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. To really celebrate a Juneteenth, you can't have ghettos, you can't have hoods, you can't have projects. The country's too rich and too many resources to have people starving, homeless, etc. And while you're building all these penitentiaries to lock up people who are supposed to be 14% of the population, at which is still tied to slavery. If you read how the prison corporation is, that is the plantation that hasn't ended. 13th Amendment rights. If you know your rights and you know the system, they have only sugarcoated and whited out certain aspects. They have not totally enunciate for freedom. So you're not free. A two-party system that can dictate you is not free. Malcolm X talked about it. You can't possibly call something free when you haven't had equal opportunity to the course. Healthcare. The food is illegal and toxic, bad for you. The water supply. Why? So let's say this. You live in Beverly Hills. How come the water in Beverly Hills don't hit the same in Flint, Michigan? Why is that? So the way everything is done, systematic, institutionalized. You can celebrate the name of it, but how are you going to celebrate it when you still have Black Lives Matter marches and people protesting and people being taken away? When you don't have equality and justification, you're not having teachers allowed to teach properly. You're not having parents allowed to teach properly. Morals and behavior, the sectors. They don't get the church imagery right. Black people have to be included in everything. So, when you talk about immigrants and migration and everything like that, uh, and you talk about the first people, there were black people here before there was somebody named Columbus. There was, when you talk about that doctrine and how that all comes into philosophy, if they really were going to celebrate, they would do away with Jim Crowism. They would do away with their racist agenda and ways. They would never tolerate a Donald Trump if they were about progression. They wouldn't tolerate a Joe Biden if they were about progression. They would have had a woman president. They would have had a woman that was black or someone representative as president. They would have had more Supreme Court justices than just 2 to 3. There's a lot of things that would be way more progressive if we were going to celebrate Juneteenth. And if other countries are doing it, like the UK, Canada, other countries are doing it, then why do black people have to have a passport? Why do black people have to go through a customs when they were brought illegally? Ain't that human trafficking? Ain't that everything that you got people like you bring up the charges and bring this up? Well, how is that? Make it make sense. Because illegal means is how they built their constitution. Illegal agendas is how they enforced. So when you are putting everything in the proper context, what are we celebrating? You commercialize something to say that you got a token one in the picture and a token one in the frame, but ain't nothing changed. So what are you celebrating exactly? And in other countries get in part of it, well, you're part of the slave trade, so you got to come over reparations too. You're not exempt. This ain't no kumbaya where, oh yeah, we just gonna dance in a circle because we free. Do you not understand the psychological warfare and the mental anguish and that whole indoctrination? And imagine people who didn't make it to see Biden sign a bill, which is cap, because the year he signed that bill in 2021, the Tulsa, Oklahoma, which the Gap band named it 3 Roads of the Gap, but that streets of that, right, which was a legalized genocide, happened. So if you're going to sign stuff in the law, do it for Emmett Till and get it right with everybody. Because if Black Lives Matter, you got to come correct with it all. And you got to do a better job of educating and enlightening. And you got to do away with the system as it is. Because it's unjust and it's not a balance. And they say that's all they know. Oh, really? Really? Why was George Floyd almost like a turning point? Why was that almost like a point of the sea where people were actually feeling something that they couldn't even explain? And believe me, that's just the dawn of the start of it all. Biblical, spiritual, and beyond. So what is there to celebrate when you're not truly free? Because if you got to go back tomorrow, you ain't getting no check in the mail, and you still going to have ghettos and hoods and projects, and people are going to still look down upon people. And that's how they are carried out to sea. So if you want it to be a world, it can't be just his story. Because it is his who is trying to justify the real Me Too movement, the real cancel culture that hasn't been canceled. That's the reality. That's the pain and the anguish that we have to take on as that. And you have to be obedient and abide, but they take it. That's what they do. You sad reality is America's like a Diddy party, and they keep telling you take it, take it, take it. Even though we know that the Epsteins and the Hefners and a whole lot of people were in on it. And between the ships and the trips and everything in between, it's all connected. So when they talk about trying to celebrate, what are they trying to celebrate? How do you celebrate when you've never been free? And why does a place have to walk around with some idiot make America great again when it wasn't great to begin with, when it hasn't been great? Because you can't have a plantation and be free. You can never step on a place that was built off a plantation and the genocide of people and celebrate something, because you're celebrating what exactly? And it wasn't that long ago. 160 years ago, really 60 years ago, when you got to have somewhat equal footing in some of these places. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. People who don't know, all the way to the Vietnam War, black soldiers were still fighting for freedom to come back to a country that had never embraced them as free. Let that sink in. And separate colored water fountains in separate locations and theaters and situations, let that sink in. So when you're thinking about barbecuing or celebrating something, are you really celebrating it because it's because of something that you believe in, or is it because of something that they told you? But they have never acknowledged the evils of their past, but they stand and dance in its presence with Confederate flags, MAGA hats, and MAGA agendas on both sides of the party line. Please like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for another. Share it if you like. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out one time. Peace.